Alright everyone, so I just made this distance calculator to calculate distances between places on Earth. The way you use this is you just go to Google Maps on your desktop and you just search up any place you want to. You can type in a monument or whatever, and what happens is that I can't show you this for copyright reasons, but what happens is you look at the top part of Google Maps and you'll see some coordinates in the actual address of the website. So search up Disney World into the Google script here, and it gives me this number here, 28.372, whatever. So I put that as my x1 coordinate into this calculator here. Then I could take something else, like what's over here. That's my y coordinates, so that's my y coordinates for this thing. Okay, so that's Disney World. So what's another spot that I want to take up? Let's say Taipei 101. It's not specifically labeled x-coordinate, but it's in the website name. And these are my numbers. And so all I have to do is press calculate, and now I have a distance in kilometers of how far away they are. They are 13, I can add the comma if I want to. It's 13,668 kilometers away. And so what I want to do is, and if I want to clear it, all I have to do is press the clear button. Uh-oh. So the clear button actually isn't working, which is weird because it was working earlier. So there's a bug with this program. That's usually what happens. But you get the concept. I'm able to just press a button here. And so how does this exactly work? And how do I fix the clear button? Alright, so welcome to the world of Python, and so here's what my script looks like. I'll have to just look at that later, because it's supposed to be as simple as it just subtracts itself out of the mix. So I don't get what's going on here. Alright, so this is how we make the funky calculator for calculating distances. Anyway, so the things I want to highlight is the basics. You want to make some kind of window with Python. So the first thing you want to do is import the star thing by using this command. The next thing you want to do is import math, because you're going to be using radians and sine, cosines, and also arc cosine. So you're going to be doing those commands. So you're going to need to import math. And the very last thing you always need when it comes to making windows is windows.main loop. A lot of this, now this looks like a lot of work, which it was a lot of typing, quite frankly. But it's a lot of repetitive stuff. So this looks really daunting, but it's actually just repeating it's not so much complex as much as just annoying. Having to retype a lot of this stuff over and over with like just a tiny variation with each of them. Well, let's get on with it. So the first thing you want to do is set your definitions. You can work out of order because you have to think your way through this stuff. So the first thing you want to do is do your definitions. The first one is to calculate, of course. So I use it as define calculate, which is n5 set. So in other words, I'm setting my last, which we're going to have to be cross-referencing a lot here. This is my last window box. So I'm going to be taking my last window box is going to be set according to what? Well, according to the radius of the Earth. That's what this is in kilometers, the radius of the Earth. And then we just take the math formula. I won't go over into detail here since this isn't supposed to be a math lesson. But this is basically how you can use the radius of the Earth to get, well, to take the GPS coordinates and to find the distance between them. Basically, this will work with any sphere. This kind of formula right here. But what the computer programming part specifically is these commands: n1.get, n3.get, with, of course, the brackets around there, or the parentheses around there. n1.get, so I'm repeating this stuff again. n2 minus, so this is a minus sign, so you're subtracting. So n2 get and n4 get. So what does this stuff mean? All this stuff means is that you have to, literally the program has to get whatever this value is. And we're plugging this in manually. So what we're taking here is see, these are variables that we enter in ourselves using those windows that you saw earlier that like I was doing. So you quite literally, you put them into place. And so what this is saying is just get whatever is in that value. Get whatever numbers you see in there and then do the math with that. That's what you're telling the computer. Get this, do that. Get this, do that. So literally get is exactly like it sounds. You're getting something and then you're doing the math with that. Of course, this is like math, stars, multiplication sign. This is adding, blah, blah, blah. So that's the formula for calculating the distance between spots on a spheroid, basically speaking. Then you have the definition of clear. This is less mathematically inclined, and it's not working correctly. It works when it's not set, so I don't know why it wasn't working earlier. But the idea is extremely simple. You basically say you set this button according to itself minus itself. Just like with anything, 8 minus 8 equals 0. That's the whole point. You want to set everything back to 0. So you want to set everything according to itself minus itself. That's all you're doing with this coding here, is just taking itself, getting its own value, and then subtracting itself. Now, I do know that in general this works because I actually stole this from a calculator program that I made. So I made my own calculator program, and then I just took this exact script and just kind of copied and pasted and just added a few more terms. What I'm saying is that this worked with the calculator. I don't know why it's not working here. Again, it vaguely worked when I didn't do anything with the program yet. But anyway, that's how that works. I'll figure that out later. So here's the real beginning. The real beginning of the program is window equals tk. That's also a formality that you kind of always do, as far as I know. Window equals title. So just in case if you're wondering, I live in Taiwan, so I tend to do my computer programming, since this is where I learned computer programming in traditional Chinese script. And I'm also doing it because it's shorter, too. So yeah, if you're wondering why I'm speaking English and writing in Chinese half the time, it's just because it's just, one, it's shorter in space, so just less typing and stuff, visual stuff to keep up with, as well as just because that's how I learned computer programming, so I want to stay true to my roots, I guess. Anyway, for the most part. So this is what this is: distance in Chinese. This is calculator in Chinese. So literally, it's a distance calculator. This works just like in English. You could just literally type out distance calculator here, and that would be fine. But I already have my geometries and stuff set, so I'm not going to change that. And so window.geometry, this means when you open, so this is window, and dot in computer programming generally means like a command to give to something. It used to be the case if you wanted to use the internet, you'd have to know how to use this dot to get at any website you want to. Now it's made much more user-friendly. Anyway, so this is when the window opens. This is the native resolution. This is how big the window opens. I actually played around with the values until I found the exact fitting that I wanted. So this is actually very intentional, 300 by 110. 100 was too small, other values too big, obviously, so I narrowed that down. So now we have our ends here. What is ends for? Well, ends are int variable, which means you put in your own variables into this thing. This is in the window earlier, those spaces where all the numbers go into. You're literally just putting in those numbers. So N1 through N5 is literally those boxes where we do that. So that's pretty simple. But what's with this E stuff now? What does this have to do with anything? So these are the actual entry. So you say entry window. So this is an entry window. So that's what. My bad. Everything I just said before is actually for this. Oh, these are so okay. I got it backwards. My bad. It's been a while since I typed the calculator, and I actually got these from the calculator thing. All right. So these are the actual window things where you actually type the stuff in. This is telling the computer that this is an entry window, as you can see here, and this gives the other details like how wide is it. I might actually need to make these wider, but I can fiddle with these details later since I kind of got looking pretty enough as it is. And the text variable equals N1. So everything that's in N1 goes into here. So these are how you set up the entry windows, which we use E for entry window. N is just a mathematical way of putting integer or just some kind of number value. So this is for the mathematical components. We have something to work. The computer has something to work with. What is N1? N1 is whatever we put into here. So basically the computer will take this, whatever's here, and use that as the variable for this, so it can do all the calculations with the rest of the program. BTN means button, so what we're doing is we're assigning buttons here. There's two buttons in this entire command, as you saw earlier, the clear button and the calculate button, and that's what these are for. So every button gets its own definition, and the definition assigns what it does. So here, all we have to do is just type in clear command equals clear. Calculate, command equals calculate. Very simple. These parameters just again do the, what does it say on the button and how big is it, and that's going to be in the window. Labels. So labels, as you can kind of see here, they're self-explanatory. These are the labels. They were the text thing you saw earlier. And so this stuff is very repetitive. All you have to do basically is just label 1, label 2, label 3, label 4, label 5, label 6, a lot of copy and pasting, and then just set them as wide as they need to be. This one had to be 11 because distance is a lot bigger of a word. And then you just type in what you want in here. X1, Y1, distance, kilometers. Just I put this label in here. I almost didn't put it in here, but I realized it might be helpful to always know it's in kilometers. Later, I think I want to do a future version of this where I can change between miles and kilometers. However, I will have to change the math and stuff up here. But I'll also do a radio button for that. So you click, so you do the radio button, you click miles, and everything changes into miles, everything changes into kilometers when you switch it like that. I thought that would be pretty cool to do for a future update of this. But when I say future update, maybe that'll never happen, who knows. So then here's the real nitty-gritty. And this part, it's probably best to open up an Excel file or something just to get a grip of what you're doing, because this part is very easy to get confused and to get lost with what you're doing. Unless if you just have that kind of mindset for it. So all you're doing here is that you're just assigning where these labels and where these buttons, just assigning exactly where everything goes. So before you did the sizes and the other attributes of the thing itself, this is how it fits into the entire window. It's pretty mundane stuff. And you can easily tie yourself in knots, like I almost did a few times. The idea is, it's just like an Excel spreadsheet. Each button, each thing, let me just type right here, it has its own spot. 1, so this is row 0, row 1, row 2. Computer programming like Python, of course, starts with 0 as its initial thing. And so then we have column 0, we're going to do C, column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3. And so that's how it's going to sort these buttons. So for example, with label 1, it's row 0, column 0. So that means it's going to end up right here. Label 6 is row 2, column 2. So I have row 2, column 2. It's going to end up right here. Now you may be wondering what pad X means, or pad Y. I think there's a pad Y, so pad Y is here. Pad X or pad Y, what does that mean? Well, just think about padding as in padding your wallet or padding something to make something softer. That's really what pad has to do here in a basic sense, is that you're padding this thing to where there's a distance. It's just for aesthetics, how it looks. You want everything to kind of not touch. It's kind of like if you have a plate of food, some people don't want their food to touch, or specific kinds of food they don't want to touch with each other. That's what we're essentially doing here, is we don't want our things to touch. So the pad command just makes sure that there is some amount of separation between the different elements. Not all of them requires, I think actually no way most of them, yeah, not all of them has a pad number to it. Not all of them it's necessary. So for all the labels, I put a pad to it. And for all the buttons, I put a pad to it. But the entry windows, they didn't get a pad to it. It wasn't necessary, since everything else was padded. So that's what padding does. It just creates some amount of separation so everything looks nicer and flows more smoothly when you're using the thing. So why does it say X and Y? Literally, X is the horizontal distance, like so. Pad X, so if pad X equals 5, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like that. If pad X, if it's pad Y, then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. So that's what X and Y, just, which direction do you want the padding. And of course, these are my buttons. So this is all .grid. So .grid just means that you're putting into a grid form. Like, again, that's why I'm saying the Excel spreadsheet is the way to think about this, is because you're packing it in like a calculator program or an Excel spreadsheet. You're packing it into a grid-like form. So it's all these commands have something .grid. Alright, and then as I said earlier, you just finish off with a window.madeLoop, and you can probably even include your name if you want to. And then that's essentially it. So yeah, it looks like a lot of work, but as you can tell, a lot of it's mostly just a lot of copying and pasting and just changing minor details here and there. The real pain is to, find out what this formula is, which I have right here for you. Know the radius of the Earth, and I say pain. Those part, well, the radius part isn't all that painful, and just making sure all the minor details are correct. It's easy to get lost in these details, so you gotta. If you want to do things in Excel spreadsheet first, just to get your bearings straight, that's totally fine. You can design things on a piece of paper or something like that, just to make sure you don't have to keep redoing things. This actually wasn't that bad to keep redoing, especially since I did slow down to keep track of everything. But the result's kind of beautiful and it's just kind of fun. So again, all you have to do is you just go to Google Maps and just search any place you want to in the desktop version, and the website itself will specifically be called, or will have the X and Y coordinates of that place already in there. You just press the calculate button and you got your thing. You press the clear button, and right now it's not working, but ideally it's going to just erase all the values and you can keep playing with it. So there's some minor adjustments that need to be made from the script just to make it even more appealing, but this is the basics of it. So thank you for watching. So I finally figured out what the problem is. But first, let me just take these coordinates right here from these two locations on Earth. Calculate. Alright, so we got 15,000 kilometers apart from each other. About 15.4. And clear. Everything's gone. The reason why it didn't work earlier was because I put the comma in when I was showing you how it works, and the comma obviously messes with subtraction. So that's all it was the putting the comma in there. So if you put in your own commas, please take them out before you press the clear button. In a future update, I think I really do want to put in an undo button, or something like that, because it's kind of frustrating that I just can't go back to the values and have to manually put them back in. But yeah, so that's how it works.